Hey y'all. Hi everybody. So this is another video about Norway. I made a video last week that was about the pros of living in Norway, and this one is basically the opposite of that. It's the cons of living in Norway. I have lived in Norway for the last 9 months. And there's many benefits, but there's also many negatives, like to everything. Everything in life has two sides. So I thought I'll talk about some of the negatives of living in Norway and just tell you about my own experience. Maybe you want to move to Norway. It would be worth having a look at, what potential cons you might be having to deal with once you move here. This isn't really cons for everybody. Again, just like my perspective and what I like in life and how I feel about it. So, you might listen to this whole list and be like, wow, perfect. This sounds right up my alley. So I moved here to start my own business with a friend. And for the last 9 months, I've been living about an hour and a half away from Bergen. It takes me about an hour and a half to get there, but I do go there every weekend. So I do kind of get to experience the city life as well. I don't just live in the middle of nowhere, but I do also get to experience that as well. So I do kind of have the experience with both sides of this, because I know a lot of people that think about coming to Norway, I think they do pursue that kind of like isolated lifestyle a little bit, because Norway is known to be this beautiful nature and a little bit of isolation. You can be with yourself, you can be at peace. I think people really kind of idolize Norway for that. So yes, I do get to experience that a little bit, but I do also get to experience the city as well. So that's just so you know where I'm coming from. Let's get going. My first con about living in Norway, it's fucking cold here. It's cold and it's dark, it's windy and it's rainy. And I don't know whether this is the case for all of Norway, of course. I do have both Bergen and Oslo on my weather app, and Oslo does seem to be getting higher temperatures and less rainy days. So, it's not everywhere. It really does depend on where you live. But in Bergen in particular, it does tend to be more on like the rainy, gloomy side, I think. And that's coming from somebody who's lived in the UK for like over 10 years of her life. Bergen has on average about 239 days of rain, yes, which is a lot of fucking days of rain. Bergen people, I think they really love the rain. I don't think they really mind it. I think they're super used to it. I think, in fact, that's why they make the city so beautiful. If you visit Bergen, you'll notice that there is houses here in like every color. It's truly like the most beautiful city that I have visited here in Norway. Never mind the fact that it's the only city that I visited in Norway, but it is super, super beautiful. I really do recommend, if you're in Norway, do come to Bergen. I think any Norwegian will probably tell you that as well. It is on average like colder as well, I think, here. So even in the summers, I don't think the weather, the temperature goes much about 19 degrees. I mean, it does occasionally, but it doesn't really feel like it. And then the problem here is that because the sun shines at Norway at a sharper angle due to Norway's geographical location, it means that even though it's 18 degrees, if the sun is out and there's no clouds in the sky, you're going to want to be in a t-shirt and shorts, and you're going to be sweating. And then the moment some clouds come over the sky, you're going to want to be putting a jacket on and maybe a scarf, because it gets pretty fucking cold like instantly. So yeah, that's something that really takes getting used to. That's why, Norwegians have the saying, there's no such thing as bad weather, there's only bad clothing. They are very mindful of it. They always have a jacket with them. Clothes that they wear here, you kind of have to make sure that everything is really good and well insulated. Underlayers are your best friend. Obviously, you always want waterproof shoes as well, ideally. Coming from a place like Bournemouth, which is like a little sunny place in the south of England, I'm not very used to it. When I came here, all my shoes, I don't think any of my shoes were properly waterproofed. I had to get a pair of these waterproof running trainers from my friend's mum, sorry. Those were like my only real waterproof shoes that I could actually wear outside. But honestly, like, you do have to be prepared for that. Keep that in mind. If you don't mind the rain, if you don't mind the cold, then this is absolutely the place for you. But just keep that in mind, that it is rainy here and it is cold. Another thing that I wanted to mention is that if you suffer from seasonal depression, you're gonna have a bad time because the night and day cycle is quite wacky here compared to like a place like England. In the winter time, I think the shortest days are like 5.9 hours. which like isn't really a lot of daylight at all, and you do get quite miserable. I had to buy myself a daylight lamp because I literally, like, I was so depressed at one point, and I had this daylight lamp. I would sit in front of it for like 2 hours every single day, just like praying for summer. I thought I was prepared for that. I didn't really realize how much of an effect it would have on me, and it ended up being quite a significant part of my life, and it gave me a lot of stress. Like half of my hair fell out, and yeah, no, it was pretty bad. So if you have seasonal depression, yeah, just do keep that in mind, that is something that you have to factor in. Okay, so con number 2, the people here, they suck. No, okay, I'm joking. They don't suck. That's a lie. What I mean, what my point is that the Norwegian culture, the people in the Norwegian culture, they are quite shy. They keep to themselves, you know, they don't want to disturb anybody. I think the Norwegian culture is very much like, you want to be mindful of other people, you don't want to disturb them, you don't want to stop them from going anywhere. Like if you, for example, run into your friend sometimes, on the street, I don't think it's really customary here to start a conversation with catch up or anything like that. Like you just say like hi and just walk past each other, like maybe smile. Sometimes you don't even like pay attention. I think that does happen where you just like see somebody but you just pretend that you didn't because it's disrespectful here, because you know they might be doing something, they might be going somewhere and you don't want to disturb them. This obviously does depend on like how close you are with the person, you know, it's like based on individual case scenario, but in general I do feel like people here have that kind of culture and they don't want to disturb you. And this is a factor also when it comes to strangers. Strangers will not want to go up to you and speak to you, and they don't want to be spoken to by strangers either. If you are riding a bus, for example, and you sit next to somebody on the bus, on the seat next to them, they'll literally look at you like you're crazy, and like they will not want to speak to you because they'll be so freaked out. And they're really kind of like, their whole demeanor tends to be quite like reserved and a bit shy until you get to know them a bit better. You know, they're really amazing people. Like they're just normal. They're like people anywhere else really, but it's just like that initial first encounter stage that you have to like break the ice, and it's so weird to me. Like I personally, I feel super uncomfortable sometimes when I'm in public and I feel like I want to approach somebody. Like I literally don't know how to because I don't want to be disrespectful. I don't know my Norwegian that well, so I feel like I'm going to be inconveniencing them by speaking, you know, English to them, and I don't want to disrespect their culture, you know, I don't want to make them uncomfortable. And I generally really like interacting with strangers, and I like being really outgoing and, you know, just kind of like speaking to anybody I encounter. So for me, like to come here and to have to deal with that was a bit of a shock for me, and a bit of a like a weird thing that I had to adjust to. Obviously, if you're an introvert, this is probably the perfect place for you because nobody's going to bother you, nobody's going to talk to you. Even like some of your friends, they might just like not talk to you if you're out in public. So yeah, if you're an introvert, perfect place to come. I have had the opposite of these things happen to me as well. Where I live, especially in like this smaller town, I have had people, you know, very often actually people do speak to you, especially the older generations. They do like tend to come up and ask you how you're doing and what you're up to, and like, oh, they want to make conversation sometimes. Yeah, I've had that happen to me, and you know, I know some people as well who are a bit more outgoing. So, you know, take it with a bag of salt because it's only, you know, like a generalized statement. All right, so con number 3. What was con number 3? Right, so con number 3. Everything is really far away and there's a lot of tunnels. If you live somewhere that's not a city and you don't live like around the city center, then you might as well be living in the middle of nowhere. Everything here is like really concentrated in the main cities. You do want to travel somewhere to shop, to buy something, some clothes, something specific, then you do have to travel for like an hour sometimes to get there. In England, if you want to drive to London, it's like basically a straight line. And here, if you want to go to Oslo from Bergen, it's like you have to go across fjords, you have to cross mountains. They have tunnels now, of course, so it's much faster, but I think the driving time to Oslo from Bergen is still 8 hours. A lot of the time, Norwegians, they fly a lot inland from city to city because it's just much more convenient. You know, it takes like literally 40 minutes, I think, to fly from Bergen to Oslo. So it's a super short flight, just up and down. And yeah, a lot of people do that here because of that. So yeah, if you do want to travel here a lot, you have to keep that in mind as well, that it might be a bit more difficult by car. Okay, so con number 4. Norway is quite expensive. I think currently Norway is the fourth most expensive country to live in the world. Taxes up quite high. I think the groceries is probably like the most overpriced thing that I have experienced, at least. Maybe that's because I don't buy a lot of other stuff, but when your brain needs some time to adjust to the price changes, you're gonna be like crying constantly, like me, every time you're at the store, just putting things in your basket, like tears streaming down your face because everything is so expensive, and you just know that your bill is going to be half your paycheck, but you will get used to it. I hope. It's been 9 months. I'm still not used to it. But when me and my family moved to England for the first time, I remember I have this distinct memory of going to the store with my mum and walking around, and I was just a child, you know, so I was like, wow, look at all the things. I just remember my mum being like, everything's so expensive, everything's so expensive, why is everything so expensive? And she would just buy like the cheapest things and wouldn't buy any of the fun stuff that I wanted, because we came from Poland. Poland's a really kind of poor country. Back in the day it was poorer, and people still earn quite much less money than in England. So yeah, it was a bit of a shock to the system. So this is the kind of like the same thing, really. Going to eat out, oh my god. Going to eat out here is so expensive. I still cry every time I go out. Me and my friend will go out, and our bill together will be like literally like £70 for a meal. £70 for a meal. That's ridiculous. That's so expensive. If you're somebody who likes to go out a lot and eat out a lot, you just might not be able to do that here. So you're gonna need to learn how to cook, unfortunately. Sorry to break it to you. Other things that are a lot really expensive. Getting a taxi here, basically impossible. They are super expensive as well. Alcohol is, what the fuck? Why is alcohol taxed so high? I mean, I understand because you want your country to be healthy, but like, come on, let the people drink. Also, on top of this, it's not even just the expensiveness, but like the rules here bother me, because you can only buy alcohol that's more than 4%, I believe, so like cider or beer. You can only buy in the specific stores called the Vinmonopol. These stores sell all of like the spirits and like the stronger wines and all of that stuff. These little Vinmonopol stores aren't everywhere. On my island where I live, on my island, yes, you have to drive like I think 40 minutes or something to get to one, because it isn't connected to the store that we have that's 20 minutes away from us. It's a bit of a pain whenever I do want some alcohol. Then on top of that, you can't buy alcohol on Sunday, and you can't buy alcohol in the evenings, because the sales, I think they end at like 5:30 on the weekdays, and then I think like 4 on the weekend, but I might be wrong. And you'd think like, oh, no worries, I'll just pre-plan, I'll buy alcohol beforehand. But sometimes you just might want to get it on the weekend or in the evening or something. And I guess that's what they were betting on when they made that rule. So yeah, just keep that in mind. Okay, and this is my last final point, point number 5. Norway is literally in the dark ages compared to England. It's dramatizing, but what I mean by that is obviously no Amazon. Postal services are much slower and weird. Like nothing is as optimized as in England. Everything seems to kind of work like clockwork, and here things just kind of take more time. If I ordered something here and it's supposed to arrive within 3 days, very likely it's not going to arrive within 3 days. That's a lie. Part of the reason for that, I think, is because, and I don't think this is the case with every postal service, but a lot of the time, like let's say you want to order something, or somebody wants to send you something from close to Bergen somewhere. Like I don't know exactly how to describe, but like, okay, so from Bergen, let's say somebody wants to send you something. So they might send it through the post, and what the postal service will do is they will send it to Oslo first to get sorted, and then it will be sent back to Bergen to be delivered to you. Because of this roundabout way of doing things, it takes much more time to get to you, basically. Yeah, online shopping here isn't really a thing, as in what I mean is like grocery delivery. So in England, it was super easy. You know, you just order all your groceries online, they get delivered to your house, and again, it works like clockwork. And here, that's much more difficult. Where I live in the countryside especially, we ordered, and we did an online shop once with like our local supermarket that we have here. It was really funny. It wasn't like, it was just the postal lady that brought it to us. And she just had it in like cardboard boxes in individual bags. Like she had all our shopping and she gave it to us. She was like, here you go, here's your shopping. And then we got a text from the supermarket saying that they accidentally didn't charge us. So can we please send them the payment? People here kind of, they are not used to those conveniences. Things don't come here as fast as they do to England, I think. If you think about like how technology and, you know, new inventions transfer from like America to the UK, for example, I think that happens really fast because of the volume of people in England, and, you know, the fact that the UK is like the hub here in Europe for now, at least. You know, Brexit happened now, so who knows what's going to happen. Here in Norway it takes like a little bit more time to get here, so yeah, that's something to keep in mind when you're moving here. If you are somebody who like loves being super hyper productive and having everything done really fast and doesn't like to faff around, that's something that you're gonna have to, you know, get used to. Yeah, unless I guess you, maybe if you live in Oslo, that's not a problem, I don't know. All right, so that summarizes my 5 cons of living in Norway. I hope you found this video at least slightly helpful. You know, I do recommend that if you want to move to Norway, again, really do consider your options, but if you really do want to come here, definitely do it. It's beautiful, it's a beautiful place, and, you know, worst case scenario, you can always go home. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks guys, bye.